outside Notre Dame Stadium, where the Fighting Irish will return Saturday for the first time since last December. He is Drew Mentock to my right, Tim O'Malley to my left. I'm John Brice. This is Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis, brought to you by the RV Manufacturers Hall of Fame and Northern Indiana Event Center in lovely Elkhart, Indiana. T.O., we'll start with you. We visited today with Mike Mickens and a quartet of players, one of those being Jaden Greathouse. Didn't have any catches in the last game. One target was a momentous play in that contest. What did Jaden Greathouse say about game one and how the team has picked up the pieces?
Yeah, I kind of asked him, how do you approach it when you don't have a catch in a game, and what was it like during the contest? How do you not let frustration mount? And he said, we're bouncing things off each other. The receivers talk to each other first. What they're seeing in game number one, they're seeing stuff. You don't always plan for what you can't plan for everything you're going to see in game number one from some coverage, some things, individuals going against you. He said, we bounce it off each other first. We bring it to Coach Brown. Sometimes Coach Denbrock will come over and say, all right, is there anything we need to adjust here? They didn't really think there was a lot they had to adjust. He credited Miami for doing a good job, but he felt like it's not going to be a situation for him in going forward where he is shut out in that situation. So I brought up the one where, not that play necessarily, but where he was open on a slant route and the ball's batted down. He's like, hey, balls get batted down. It's not some crazy thing. I didn't have to say anything to CJ. He's calm. He's cool. He's collected. He said in the huddle, he was not shaken at all, and that's what he was pretty happy to see that. He said when he was a freshman, I asked him when he was walking away, he said, I was jumping all over the place.
Yeah, we've got some more on CJ Carr and his calm demeanor in the pocket and in the huddle and on the sidelines from that game. But, Drew, I want to talk to you next. Leonard Moore, you spent quite a bit of time with him. What were your takeaways from visiting with Notre Dame's sophomore All-America cornerback?
Yeah, I think a big thing was just hearing about how he's kind of responding. He talked about he's not used to getting beat on a double move. He talked about kind of how he evaluated it, that given the circumstance in 16 seconds or so on the clock, there's no reason to even bite on that move because it's going to the end zone. It's not coming short. So he talked about evaluating that, but also using that as somebody who's really emerged as a leader on this team, even though as a sophomore. That's something he can use as a guy who is the freshman defensive player of the year, is like, here's a mistake I made, here's how I'm learning from it, here's how I'm bouncing back. So I think really just how he's carrying himself and what he's taking back from a game where you're just not used to seeing him make those kind of mistakes, and he feels like he's getting better for it.
It was insightful because he was asked, hey, when's the last time you were beaten on a double move? Were you there for that? Do you remember what he said?
I think he said never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He said not last year. I can tell you that. And he said maybe in high school, but he did not act like he had ever been beaten on the double move. I thought it showed a depth of coaching when he was said, well, technique-wise, what could you have done better on that play? He's like, it's not about technique. It's about having the awareness and the knowledge of saying, hey, there's only 16 seconds left, and they don't even have a timeout. Make the tackle in the middle of the field and let the ball keep going. So, T.O., you also spent some time with Mike Mickens, Leonard Moore's coach. What were your takeaways from Coach Mick, and especially the teaching point he's driven home to Adon Schuler?
Yeah, before I get to that one, I want to go to the double move because he made a great point on Malachi Toney in the slot. He said that's a double move, only it's horizontal, and that's a tough thing to cover as well. And you also have more space because not only is there a double move going horizontal, well, that little hitch might go vertically too. So you actually have three ways you're covering. He said, we're going to learn from it. We're going to cover that better. We have it handled. He was asked multiple times. He finally ended with, we have that handled. So I would expect to see maybe schematically, you say you got to get a little bit more on the guy on that one. Adon Schuler, is an obvious question to ask. What's your coaching point for Adon Schuler? He's like, play the ball. You play through it. You're going to be aggressive. You're going to go get everything. That is probably the least of anybody's concerns watching Notre Dame safeties play last week. So we asked what the concerns were, and I just wonder how much they're going to rotate. I know you have to rotate over 16 games. I asked Chris Ash before the game started, or before the week of practice started, how much can you rotate on the back end? He said, well, they wouldn't be in there if they couldn't call the game. I agree with that, but I think actions will speak louder. Their actions spoke. They rotated. Will they continue to rotate that much at home where it's not as hot against Texas A&M? I'm not sure you'll see quite as much safety rotation.
Not as hot, no, but you did see Tay Johnson even in the game late. You saw Mark Zachary have to play a play when Christian Gray was dinged up. They obviously rotated among the safeties quite extensively. I got to visit some with Jadarian Price. I do want to share a couple of things from our time with him. Number one, I asked him, I'd heard that he had a great camp in terms of ball security. And I said, Jadarian, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you had one or no fumbles in fall camp. He said, yeah, I didn't fumble the ball in fall camp. Just luck of the draw. He knew that He said the guy just made a play on it. He said, look, they practiced that. He didn't get a helmet on it. He punched it out. I have to be better. I know that. He said the ball is the program. That's their mantra. The ball is the program. You can't drop the program. Drew, I don't know, did you get to visit any with Boubacar Traore?
Just a little bit.
Okay. What about Boubacar's visit with the media stood out to you?
I mean, I think the biggest thing was he kind of always had in his mindset that he was going to be back for this game, and that's something that he really had a goal. I mean, he didn't know for certain, but that was definitely his target, and kind of how helpful it was for him to kind of get involved, get a TFL early, and kind of get back into game action, I think really helped him, and we did see a sack later in the game, so hopefully that's something from Notre Dame's sake that he can kind of start building off of there.
A couple other quick nuggets from Jadarian Price, then I'll come back to UTO. And number one being he revealed tonight that he and Jeremiah Love go into every game with the goal/expectation of amassing 200 rushing yards. That's their goal. They're not backing down from it. They want 200 yards per game, every game. They obviously didn't meet that goal in the opener against Miami. That's something very much on their minds. I asked him about C.J. Carr's poise and composure, and he made clear that he was unflappable the entire game. He said down 21-7 in the huddle, C.J. was saying, hey, guys, it's all right. We're going to go win this. He said, look, we didn't win it, but we had a chance to win it. We were down 3 and had the ball with a minute left. That's who C.J. Carr is. I asked him how many times he had seen a similar play to the touchdown to Micah Gilbert, and he said, oh, man, I've seen that a bunch in practice. T.O.?
You know, one of our colleagues, Tyler James, asked a great question, but when we were walking out together, we realized Mike Mickens couldn't answer this one. He asked what went into the rotation at nickel with Devonta Smith and Carson Hobbs. And he said, well, that is part of our scheme. And when you think about it, the coach isn't going to tell you why Carson Hobbs is in and why Devonta Smith is in. But I said, again, the rotation, you wonder how much, if it's not necessary because of the weather, it's not necessary because someone's getting worn down over games, they're going to rotate. I think Devonta Smith and Carson Hobbs will rotate more than the 4 safeties will rotate in this next game. I just think they like their skill sets. They didn't have a great game against Malachi Toney in Miami. And I want to say Malachi Toney again because Malachi Toney made plays in that game.
Mike Mickens revealing that they call that play the mesh pivot, and they play the mesh, and then the receiver pivots off of that. Mike Mickens also going into the Cincinnati Athletics Hall of Fame this year. I asked him about that. He said he got the call this summer from the Cincy AD, was quite floored and honored by that. I also asked him about his coaching origin story because I'd heard some whispers about it, and he said, yeah, I just kept going to these Pee Wee football games with not a kid playing or not coaching, no reason to be there. My wife was finally like, if you're going to go to all these games, make some money doing it. So that's a little bit on the Mike Mickens origin story. That's it for
very quickly on Mike Mickens. I think people are going to enjoy this. We asked Mike Mickens, do you remember the first time you got beaten? Because obviously everybody got beat in that game. And as you said, Leonard Moore, that was weird to see. He said, oh, I remember the first time. 70-yard touchdown, 80-yard touchdown as a freshman, first game. I said, well, what was the coach's response? Figure it out because you're not coming out of the game. That's how you build confidence in a corner.
And that was against Penn State, so not a light foe either. Quite the scene in college football. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this Irish Illustrated Instant Analysis. For Andrew Mentock, for Tim O'Malley, I'm John Brice. This has been Irish Illustrated Instant Analysis, brought to you by the RV Manufacturers Hall of Fame in Northern Indiana Event Center in Elkhart, Indiana. Until the next one, enjoy this one.